So welcome back to our transmission, V and M. I'm M.
I'm V.
So last time when we left you hanging on the cliff edge of the subject of informational minimalism. And this is sort of one of my pet ideas, I think, mainly, more than V's, perhaps. Yes, she's nodding. By the way, we are in bed. Bow shaka wow wow. And just thought I'd let you know that. We're not naked though. We're going to continue with informational minimalism. Right, so I guess the idea in my mind is that, stuff in your environment is a bit like having beliefs in your mind. And a very famous person is supposed to have said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing." That's actually not what he said.
I think it was Socrates, wasn't it?
Yes, Socrates. He gets to be not anonymous, whilst us anonymous people with our
Well, he's not very
initials.
Anonymous, let's be honest, and a lot of people that would choose to listen to a ramble such as this are probably going to know who Socrates is.
Yeah, so we didn't need to say then.
I wanted to.
Okay.
Got to give him credit where it's due.
Yeah.
It was a genius quote.
Well, he didn't say that. What he said, what the oracle at Delphi said, was that he was the wisest man in Greece, or Athens or something, I can't remember, in somewhere anyway. And what he said was, if he was the wisest man in wherever this place he was in, then that was because he knew that he was not wise. So that's actually what happened. But the point is, he gets misquoted as, "The only thing I know is I know nothing." And this is kind of a statement setting up the kind of concept of informational belief minimalism, if you will. Because everything you know is just a belief. You only think you know it. And so therefore you believe it, and the whole thing's synonymous. Knowledge and belief, pretty much synonymous. So if you only know one thing, and that is that you don't know anything else apart from that one thing, then that's as minimalist as you can get. And Socrates was supposedly one of the greatest philosophers. I tend to agree. So there's an informational minimalist for you. And it probably wasn't true. He probably did actually believe things. I think in his later life got quite stroppy about certain things. And like minimalism in real life, in actual stuff terms, we don't get rid of everything. We're just in a process of getting rid of things. And where that process leads is up to the individual. And so therefore it's basically a review. So when you get rid of your stuff, you kind of review what you have and what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, and maybe even what you want to add. So it's just a review of what you've got, rather than just allowing things to accumulate willy-nilly, ad hoc, at random. You're reviewing. And so what that kind of means to me is that informational minimalism is simply kind of a review of your beliefs, of the things that you think are true. And it's probably a healthy exercise for everyone to go through this. And so that's what I mean by informational minimalism. The other way you can take it, of course, is that, we're living in an age full of information. Perhaps actually there's too much information, or rather too much rubbish information. This recording being one of these. But no, of course not. We're geniuses. I'm going to stop talking now and let V talk.
Thank you. So, yeah, I don't really like to cut out information like M appears to. I think it's been my natural inclination all the way through very much my adult life, especially on things of a philosophical or spiritual nature, to want to be a bit of a magpie about it and collect and kind of gather as much information as I can. And the way that I would see the role of minimalism in that is, I feel that if I have a lot of stuff, I can then look at it and go, okay, that's out, that's out, that's out. And that's how it works for me when it comes to information. I don't mind taking it in to begin with. In fact, stuff that really has not resonated one bit with me just doesn't stay in there anyway. It just falls out. And so I am left with kind of more of a minimalistic, amount of information in my head, because unlike M, who seems to only have to hear something or see something once and it's in the brain and he's remembered it and it troubles him, with me, I'm afraid interest plays a large part in it. I can watch something or read something or find something out, but if it's not, really on a level with me as a person, it just doesn't stay there, and that's that. I've forgotten it about 10 minutes later. So I guess I come about informational minimalism kind of in a different way, which is interesting. What do you think?
So it sounds like what you're saying is that you collect in order to discard.
Yeah, that's
And
how it works for me.
yes. What about the other side of it in terms of reviewing one's beliefs?
I think I'm constantly doing that all the way through my life. Like I said, I've been interested in things of a spiritual and a philosophical, historical, you name it. If it's a mystery, I'll entertain it. And I think, really, when I think back at, my life, it's definitely been an evolution. It's been an evolutionary process. Things that I believe now, I wouldn't have thought about 10, 20 years ago. So that's how I've evolved. There was a time when the sort of earth-based religion would have been very much my thing. And now, even though I have a lot of respect for it, I wouldn't say that it's the be-all and end-all for me now. It served a purpose. It's almost a bit callous, maybe. I think that what happens is things serve a purpose. They're stepping stones to a higher level of, spirituality. And that's how it works for me. And I've studied all sorts of things, trust me. So,
Well, the chaos magicians say that belief is a tool, don't they?
yeah. And it definitely does feel like that for me. Definitely.
So, how would you say that you have grown over the last 10 years?
God, that's difficult. Maybe grown isn't really the right terminology. Maybe matured. Maybe there's less need for, kind of spiritual tools or, some of the more surface level ritual stuff that I used to do. Maybe as I'm going on is starting to feel slightly less necessary. It's more inward, if you know what I mean now. In the last few months or so, I've really reconsidered what I think about meditation, and somehow it's like I've definitely progressed in that way. That's been very useful, and the job that I've done for a long time has really influenced how I feel about things. So when I was like 20, the sort of things that would have interested me were Wicca, off the back of being a 90s child. It would have been psychic ability. It probably would have been something like Feng Shui, all the sort of popular stuff, the chakras, stuff like that. But now, I'm not saying that stuff isn't relevant, because I'm sure in some respects it most definitely is still, but it seems to be more kind of introspective, just listening to myself a bit more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I know it makes sense. I mean, all these things that you mentioned that you were interested in previously are, I guess you could say, truths that you could find out there and follow.
Yeah, it feels like,
Whereas what it
yeah,
seems like what you're saying now is that maybe those truths are not really necessary, and really you're just more like looking for the truth within yourself more. Is that right?
yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. I mean, I think it's just part of my life. I had to start somewhere, so I started with that. And a good starting point it was too. And some of the principal, the core things that I picked up along the way have probably conditioned how I am now. And so it goes on. Do you know what I mean? And But I think, if I'm to be honest, and I don't want to offend anyone when I say this, but it's about maturity. It's about growing up as well, which is probably a bit harsh, but
Why is that harsh?
because it's like saying that something like Wicca is maybe, dare I say it, even a little bit childish. But it's not really childish, it's just that, to begin with, on my spiritual path, I am an aesthetic person. Having tools and a certain ritual and a certain cycle that you carried out helped me stay there, if you know what I mean. Kept me on the right path. And I found it very beneficial. But now, really, the kind of ritual that I'd maybe do is a meditation. It's just sitting down somewhere and just quieting everything. I don't know. Is that maturity? What is it? I'm just not feeling it necessary to have so much.
Well, that's minimalism, isn't it?
Well,
You've
yeah,
gone from a
that's
state
definitely...
of using things,
Yeah.
both beliefs, rituals and tools,
Mm.
to a state of not using them and just having what you have.
Yeah, like, that's
The
definitely...
emptiness kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely... minimalism in a lot of ways has been a game changer, I think. And I do believe that the process of minimalism can end up being a spiritual one as well. You just start weighing things up differently, looking at things and saying, is this necessary? Do I really need it? Am I benefiting from it? And that goes through every level to me. It's a concept that I think has changed a lot of my life, and for the better, I'd say.
So why do we associate maturity with minimalism?
I don't think we do. I think, and that's not the point I was trying to make. I was trying to say that it felt like some of the stuff that I was maybe interested 10, 20 years ago helped me along my way, but I've evolved over it. I've gone through it.
Yeah.
I've learnt a lot more, and although I can completely appreciate and respect what I was doing then, to me, and it is just my own personal view, some of it feels like a more immature version of myself that was doing that.
Well, you were
And that I've
younger.
grown. Yeah, exactly.
But have you grown as a result of applying minimalism,
No, it's not that alone. No, it's definitely not that alone.
or just because you would have grown anyway had you not
Yeah,
done anything different at
maybe in a
all?
slightly... Well, no, because I don't see life like that. How can you not do anything differently? That's ridiculous. Of course you're going to.
Some people are
Are you
very
saying that...
obsessive, aren't they?
Are you saying that you don't feel... You feel exactly the same way in your spirituality that you did 20 years ago? Because I'm not sure I'd believe that.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
So what's changed with you then? What made you grow? Evolve?
Well, I'm just wondering why we're associating maturity with the letting go of ideas rather than the taking them up. Is that a correct an association?
Not really, no, because that's just one part of it.
And what's the other part of it?
There's so many different parts to it. Life, things you've seen, experiences you've had.
So we could say that had you not decided to do anything differently at all, then you would have matured anyway.
No, not really. I probably wouldn't have done. I'd probably be stuck in the rut of ghost stories and psychic ability and, writing ritual odes that seemed really strange even at the time when I used to, Wicca's got this funny way of trying to get you to write in a certain style, like Old English or something,
Yeah.
when you're doing your ritual. And I used to find that it just wasn't who I was. It didn't quite fit me. So then I started to think, well, fuck this, I'm going to do it my way. And that used to work a bit better. But over time, the tools have slowly gone as well. Like, it's just material possession through life experience and ultimately finding, the concept of minimalism. But life experience too, because, since I sort of was in the days when I was sort of more into Wicca, I've watched, grandparents and family members die and leave all their stuff behind, and then an argument ensues over who's getting what, and all this business, and the same in the job that I had, and then moving so many times and
Having kids.
And so many different things that have brought me to that point. And I'm sure I would have evolved had I not have found that, but it would have been slightly different evolution, of course.
So I think I've got a different story. V was just asking me how I'd changed. My story is, I think, one of not really minimalism. I didn't have hardly anything to start with. I guess I've been building up.
What are we talking about here? Material stuff?
No, in terms of beliefs and spirituality. In terms of material stuff, well, I guess I've become more minimalist, but still a long way to go. I don't feel like I've really cracked it. Stuff doesn't really affect me as much as it affects V. I can sort of just blank it out, so it's not really as urgent for me, but I do appreciate it as being definitely something I'd like to carry on with. But that's stuff, putting stuff aside.
And that's taken into account that when I first mentioned such a concept, M drew away from it somewhat and wasn't that keen on it.
Well, my mum and dad
yeah,
had arguments revolving around my mum is really disorganised and she would just basically throw things in the bin if she doesn't need it and it's not essential. And the rest of what she does keep is like in crumpled up bits of paper scattered about her chaotic filing system. Whereas my dad, on the other hand, had the ideal of being ultra organised. He didn't actually succeed in being ultra organised because he too let his filing systems become decrepit. And I was more like my dad. And he always used to have an argument with my mum, which went along the lines of, I needed that and you threw it away. And so I picked up a lot of that. I was a squirrel like my dad, probably slightly better organised than my dad, but still nonetheless a squirrel.
Yeah.
I would never throw anything away.
I remember that.
But then again...
Those receipts, honey. Those receipts.
Yeah. But then again, I did not accumulate much either because I also had the notion of not wanting to have too many things, and what I did spend my money on I really wanted. So it wasn't too bad. I was halfway there, I suppose you could say. But that's just stuff, and I wasn't really trying to talk about stuff. I was trying to talk about spiritual ideals, beliefs, that kind of thing. I mean, I guess you could say I started with a lot from Christianity, and then I just threw it all out in one go when I was young, and started again.
Are you saying that nothing stuck?
Well, I mean, the only thing that stuck was that I was an agnostic for a while before becoming an atheist, and so I half believed in God. That's the only thing that stuck.
I don't think that's quite what it means.
Well,
I think it just means you're not sure.
Yeah, okay, well, not being sure is... a
half belief.
It's half belief, isn't it? So, yeah. So I guess that was the only thing that stuck, half a belief in God. And so I decided at that same time to sort of just try to discover my own truth. And since then, I really have been building up truths for myself. I did a lot of poetry, which helped me to sort of extract from my mind ideas that I felt were important without getting too far bogged down in the detail, which is one of the nice things about poetry, I find. And I still do it. But I came across meditation when I went to university. And since that point, I've been meditating. And it was Zen meditation. And the nice thing about Zen meditation is it's pretty devoid of stuff, It literally
You can't get more void of stuff than Zen, probably.
Literally, it's just sitting right and breathing right.
And looking at the wall sometimes.
Well, I
You're
mean,
getting whacked with something, by the way.
no, I didn't require looking at walls or getting whacked. Sitting and breathing was far too much of a challenge. And so, and I learned other ways to meditate from New Age, pagan, shamanism, which basically, in a nutshell, is just what I now call dreaming whilst awake. And then I wondered whether there'd be any more other ways to meditate, and then I started to create other ways to meditate, and now I've got quite a lot of ways to meditate. And I think, to me now, the meditations that I do, to me, represent like different exercise that an athlete would do to exercise different parts of their body. They do different exercises, and so the same is true with me with meditation now. And so I have different meditations, and it's quite nice. I like the diversity, but I can appreciate the minimalist aspect of it as well, in the sense that at the centre of it all is a very empty, peaceful nirvana, and that's nice to go to as well sometimes. But so yeah, I guess you could say I've been accumulating my own. A lot of it is my own creations. It's like I'm an artist and I've been making art, and it's been piling up in the corner of my studio. And this, I suppose, this recording is another example of that. And so, yeah, I feel like I've been accumulating rather than getting rid of, because I got rid of everything in the first place anyway, spiritually speaking. So, I think we've said everything we wanted to say about information minimalism, or just minimalism. I don't know, I guess it's just the extension of minimalism into more than just the physical domain, which makes sense, since why not?
Seems like a natural progression to me.
I think when you consider where minimalism comes from, it probably does come from this ideology of emptiness being the centre of everything. And so you'd expect it to, because in the West we pick up the materialistic aspects of minimalism, and then later on realise the spiritual aspect.
No, see, it was almost at the same time. I could see the kind of spiritual benefit. Obviously it does start out with material, but the whole process even of getting rid of the material stuff to me felt quite spiritual, if that makes sense. So the spiritual aspect has always been there, I think, with that.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right, though. In the West, we do kind of.
I think
it's just very materialistic in society and culture, isn't it?
I think it's easier for us to understand.
Yes, because that's what our brains are used to being around anyway, isn't it? It's how we work. We base our society on how much we've got.
Is the next step after minimalism becoming an artist?
Yes, I think so. And I did discuss this with Em a week or so ago, whereby the kind of the blank walls that have maybe been created by getting rid of the stuff has made me feel more creative, actually.
Yes.
So I have a few ideas in mind that I've gathered recently about things I'd like to try. I'm not saying it's going to be great, but at least it would have been something that I've created as opposed to a kind of, shop-bought, factory-made item or something, which I'm sure, even if it is not that great, I can sort of think, well, I did do that. That was mine, so...
Yeah.
It just makes your sort of surroundings feel more personal then, like it really is your home.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling that. I'm toying with ideas such as upcycling and just making stuff out of junk and stuff like that. It's always fascinated me a bit. So, yeah, and just being creative about it.
I guess...
It's kind of artisan, yeah.
Well, I mean, general principle of nature is that they say it abhors a vacuum, which basically means you can't have nothing. If you try and have nothing, stuff just pops in. And if you look at quantum theory,
they're right as well.
The same thing happens. Because even in empty space, there's billions of virtual particles coming into existence and going out of existence all the time.
And the first time Em said this to me, I actually felt a little bit kind of pang of depression, because I thought, well, all this effort And you're telling me there's always going to be stuff in my environment.
Well, yeah, if you sit down and you think on a spiritual level, if you're meditating, if you're doing like, an emptiness type of meditation where you rise above things just come in and out. You don't get entangled with them, but you can see them coming in and out. And like sometimes there's nothing there, but then something pops in. Mm-hmm. It's like you can't actually stop it. Things always come in.
Yeah, but like they come into the flat as well.
Yeah, but what I mean is like the quieter you become, the more things just sort of just pop in there.
Yeah, and more sort of original, creative things.
Yes. So what
which is nice.
I can attest to the fact that if you are not consuming, you'll be creating, because that's quite a lot of what I like to do. V is more of a consumer, I'm more of a creator, and we often have a sort of dispute over that.
I think this is a bit harsh, actually, because I do try. But I think you've been on that a lot longer than I have, basically.
Yeah, and this is something I learned from a friend of mine.
He's making me sound very materialistic, and I'm not, really.
She's not?
I'm not, I'm going to say compared because, on the scale of things, I think as a female in Western society, I am not actually that materialistic, despite what my husband might say.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But we're both different. We're different to one another. We're not completely identical. And I'm more on the creative side of the spectrum, aren't I? Not in terms of making physical objects, because I'm not very good at that, but in terms of making like informational things like this.
Yeah. But lately I have been trying. Yeah. Since the summer I definitely have been thinking about it and trying a bit more.
Well, this is your point though, is that the effort really, it doesn't make any sense without having a blank canvas.
No, that's right.
You've got to go to the core first before you can come out again.
Yeah. We're not quite at the core, but we're closer than we have been in a long time, I think. And,
you never actually get to the core.
No.
No, it's just a sort of idealistic Socrates point, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I can attest to the fact that if you want to be creative, just get rid of as much as you can, and then you will instinctively start to be more creative. If you've got clutter around you, it stifles creativity.
It stifled me in a big way. I felt stressed. Like, I think I have said this before, especially having 2 young children in relatively small environment as well. It's like mental noise. It's noise.
It is noise.
All that stuff. It's just noisy.
Well, they are noisy.
No, not the kids. All the stuff that comes with them and all the stuff that we had, and I would look at it, and I think I've got slight synesthesia, to be honest with you. It just amounted to noise in my brain.
I know what you mean.
And it was stressful. That's why, that's a big part of the reason why I decided to start chucking stuff out, to be honest with you.
I think you're sensitive to your objects in the environment more so than I am. Whereas with me, it's actual noise, like sound. I'm quite sensitive to sound. So much so that I will sit at my desk at work. Everyone else is fine. And I stick earplugs in. No one else does that where I work. Sometimes I put earplugs in when I'm around the family.
Yeah, which I find quite rude, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, actual noise does upset me. And I was thinking today, I started to write a diary, by the way, of things that happened to me in the day, and also things that I want to do the next day. But one of the things I wrote down was, it's not the noise level, because I got a little app on my phone which measures decibels. And it's not the level of decibels that gets to me, it's the content of the noise. It's what's in that noise. If people are talking, I can't think. I can't, because I think in words. So when they say words, it's like, what? I need that space to think in. You can't be like talking in the background to me, because I'm never going to think. If you want to stop me from thinking, just talk at me continuously. And I won't be able to say anything back, because I won't be able to think of anything to say. So I'm quite sensitive to actual sound clutter, I think. If I could have a way of closing my ears, like you can close your eyes, I would want that genetic modification on my ear holes, where my ears
He
just
wouldn't
flap.
really.
No, I
And I
would.
think you have... What, you'd like to be able to do it at will?
Yes.
Like, okay.
Absolutely. And I'd close them most of the time, to be quite honest, and only open them when I needed to hear something.
Thanks.
Well, this is my point. I'm sensitive to actual noise. It affects my stress level a lot. I mean, if I put my earplugs in, I'm so much more peaceful. I'm so much more relaxed. It's just because I've got rid of muffled the background noise in my environment.
Slightly insensitive, I think.
Well, apparently this is socially unacceptable.
Well, no, it just might come across as a little bit rude, in certain situations.
What about body language? Because I like body language quite a lot. I like to watch people's body language. I don't do it when I'm talking very much. I sort of get carried away with what I'm saying. But when I just look at people, I like people watching, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Well, I like looking at their body language, and often, that's how we interact with most people in the world, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
Just through body language. Nothing else. We hardly even talk to people most of the time. No touch, no talk. Mostly just, I need to avoid you as you come towards me on the pavement, somehow, without making too much eye contact.
Or none at all.
So that you think I'm weird. But I obviously need to check you out to see if that you're not a murderer, and but at the same time not stare at you and avoid it from crashing into you. It's just a little game, And then I just like all that kind of visual interaction. To me, I just kind of I like it more than. I mean, I like talking, obviously. Am I going on a rant? Have I just talked for ages? Yeah. I'm just going to stop now.
No, you carry on, honey. You had a point. You were making a point.
Oh, yeah, I like talking. And I guess I like listening. But I sort of get really stressed if I can't say anything for too long. But I don't like background talking. I don't like environment sounds. I find them distracting. But I'm totally fine with all sorts of things visually in the environment. It doesn't bother me. I can just tune them out quite easily. Maybe it's just the way our brains work, probably, that's different. I'm good at filtering certain types of things and bad at filtering other types of things, whereas V's the other way.
Yeah, I think probably that's quite true. Although the noise levels of the girls sometimes is a little bit hard to block out.
Well, I can't block it out. This is why I don't do anything when I'm about with them other than either nothing or join in. I can't actually do anything because I noticed that you're better than me at tuning out of that.
I do, yeah.
And I can't really do it. I can't really tune out sufficiently to actually engage in something that's going to take my brain power.
Unless they're screaming ultra loud, in which case it starts to get a bit stressful. But
Yeah.
I think I've got a higher threshold maybe with sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is it who said children should be seen and not heard?
Yeah, but that's not true. And they obviously didn't have kids, and
No,
you have to let them
I think
express
I
themselves.
think if you have kids, that's exactly what you say.
Yeah, but it's very unrealistic, I'm afraid, and whoever said that was obviously not a very nice person.
Isn't it Queen Victoria or
No
Elizabeth?
idea. And she had about 6 kids, didn't she, or something?
Well, she knew what she was talking about, I reckon. I totally
Well, she probably
agree with
didn't see hers even, let alone hear them.
Because they look really cute, don't they?
Yeah.
But
They sound like banshees
they sound
a lot of the time.
disgracefully horrible. So it's like the sound of a child.
No, not always. Not always. They don't sound disgracefully horrible all the time.
Well, most of the time.
The
The sound of the child is repellent.
Please don't say that.
I just said it.
They're not repellent. We love our children.
Why do they scream so much then? And say poo-poos all the time?
That's just a habit they've got into. I actually curbed it a bit this afternoon. Yes, on the way home.
How did you do that?
I threatened that they wouldn't get a treat when they got home from school if they carried on the present strain of screaming. I think the height of it was when we have to walk through a tunnel on the way home. a walkway that's very echoey. And so they both thought it was hilarious to shout poo-poos in my pants at the top of their voice through the tunnel. They got some very strange looks, and I just knelt down to the pair of them and said, "Any more? And there's no treats." To which I get a chorus of, "Treats!" And I said, "No, you've been told. That's it. You've crossed the line." They both thought about it. I made them wait when we came home. They didn't get anything straight away until they had been good for at least 20 minutes, half an hour. And funnily enough, even after I'd given them a little snack, they remained calm until Daddy came home. And I think it's excitement, basically, of seeing someone else's face other than Mummy's by 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And then they go wild before bedtime.
They always do
This
that.
is the usual, plan of action.
And then R2, bless her, just passes out at bedtime.
Yeah.
She's asleep within minutes.
Yeah, she's a good little sleeper, that one. I'm surprised she can sleep. I think she blocks out noise and all because her sister makes a lot of noise next door shouting.
Yes, R1 is much louder.
Yeah, shouting her demands down the stairs for drinks of water and I want a wee-wee. Bless her. So obviously R2 is a little bit like Mummy. She's able to block it out.
R1 is like Daddy.
Yeah, it's
R2
like straight
like
down the
Mummy.
line. In fact, I'm not sure that R1 has got anything to do with me whatsoever.
Just think clones.
Yeah.
They're not children, they're clones.
Exactly, yeah. Don't know quite how it worked like that, but...
No, I don't know either.
No. Anyway, are we done?
Yeah, I guess so. Mm-hmm. There's loads of things I could say because I've written loads of things down in my diary.
Well, keep it going. Keep it going. Well, keep those ideas there and we'll get back to them.
I don't think that's possible because every day I'll have new ideas and then the rate of idea having is going to be faster than the rate of recording. And with that, we shall leave you until the next time where we could be talking about absolutely anything. Goodbye.
Bye.